everybody, welcome back to another episode of Let's Have a Pint. Let me move this. Sorry, I'm gonna move that. You don't really need to see my water. Uh, Anyways, today we have Obsidian Stout from Deschutes Brewery. Deschutes is... Yeah, they're my favorite brewery from Oregon. I was also thinking there's another one, 10 Barrel, I believe, is from Oregon. But anyways, this is an American Stout, 6.4% alcohol by volume, 55 IBUs. It averages a 3.79 rating on Untapped, and for, a basic, I don't want to say necessarily basic, but for a main beer that's not like a bigger, robust beer, it's part of their main line. That's what I was trying to get at. For a main line of beers, that's not a bad rating at all. Typically, those don't go up into the 4%, or 4%, 4 stars. But, anyways, the description on this reads, "A stout as black as the nearby volcanic flow from which it is named. Dive into its dark, robust depths with intense layers of espresso and chocolate. Roasted malt and barley give it a full, toasty finish." Fan out here and the fan in our bedroom. They're a little crooked, so at the highest setting, they hit like that, and it is very annoying noise. It says on here Best by 9/3/18, which doesn't really matter with this. This could literally, if this sat in your fridge for a year, it would be fine. Sorry, I washed it out. There's a little bit of water in it. I'm okay with a little bit, but that was a little too much. Alright, that's got a darker head. Gets bigger as it's done. About a little less than 2 fingers worth of head on that. Like I said, a darker head. Not tightly compact, but at the top they're bigger bubbles. And there is absolutely no seeing through this sumbitch. I don't really have a discussion thing for you guys today, but I'm going to test the waters for you guys on something else today. But anyways, so the other times I've had this beer, apparently I had it twice on the same day, and I can neither confirm nor deny if I accidentally just put it in twice, which is very difficult to do, and I've just seen that you can actually delete check-ins. I don't think the mobile app has that, because I was never able to find that on the mobile app. There's times where I've accidentally rated a beer without actually rating it, and it was really freaking annoying, because then I had to wait a minute to actually do a rating on it. And it was really annoying. The biggest annoyance of it was, now it says I've had it, if it was a beer I'd never had before, now it says I've had it twice. But anyways, first time I had it was December of 2012. 4-star review there. By the way, back then I was going to have a lot of beer because I was still living with my parents. So I had a lot of money. But, wish I could say that now. And then I had it again in February of 2013. Both times I rated a 4-star. See what we do this time. And that is definitely coating the glass. Sorry, it's hot. I need the beer. Definitely get the coffee. Or the espresso. Chocolate is there, but it's overshadowed by the espresso. It's a very heavy beer, but it's very heavy-bodied beer. I keep going to smell it. Smell is good. I don't think there's much on the front of the palate. There's a little bit of espresso on the front of the palate. Not much going on in the middle. Actually, there is. It's more of a balance in the middle between the chocolate and the coffee. On the way down, you can still definitely get that bitterness from the espresso in there, but it's definitely more the chocolate shining through. It's like at the front of the palate. You know, the coffee's here, the chocolate's here, middle of the palate, they kind of intersect, and then, you know, but because of that bitterness, it kind of spikes, but it's nowhere near as prominent as the chocolate. You just can catch that sharp bitterness. This seems to be better than I remember. But yeah, I love that coffee bitterness way more than I enjoy hot bitterness. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy hot bombs and such, but that gets old to me. Like, not this past time that I went out and got beer, the time before, when I went out and bought beer, it seemed like 90% of what I got was IPAs, and this time I specifically stayed away from that because I'm so tired of it. I still got a few in the fridge, and I don't really. The only one I really want to drink that's in there is my 60 minute. But I love 60 minute. By the way, I still have the stack of books here, if you can see that down in the corner here. Because that was the last episode I did. The Zipline Oatmeal. I don't know if this is getting uploaded before or after that, but that's what you get in that video. I said I feel like this is better than I remember. I feel like that's going to get more than 4 stars. And see, at that time, this was perfect. I loved this. Imperial Stouts were tough. Like, I couldn't do it the first time I had Bourbon County Stout. It was not a good beer in my opinion. I mean, what I should say is, not that it wasn't a good beer. I could tell it was very well done. It was just too much for my palate. By the way, if you've been wondering the shirt, it's a band, Ghost Town. Very good band, at least for the first couple albums. Like, I love those first couple albums to death. Anyway, after that, I don't know. I didn't really care for the third album. But, I feel like I'm going to rate that better than I've rated it in the past. Anyway, I don't know if anybody is a writer. I personally use Wattpad. I don't know how you look somebody up on Wattpad. I think how you would look me up is SSJ Kyle. Yes, that is a reference to what you think it is. If you know what that is. If not, you probably wouldn't understand. But that's what I use. Like, let's back out of here. Like, published, I've got 22 parts of Zoe the Avant Rises published. How many parts is it? I think it's like 50. Like, I got, minus the second one, I've got like the first 10 published. Then there's one missing, and then there's like 5 more missing, and then one more, and then a missing, and then like 5 more, 6 more. And then nothing after that. Although it's weird because it says not published, but some of these say that they've had eyes on them. So it tells you, like, it has an I and then a 1, how many times somebody's liked it, and then comments on it. Which I've never had a comment, but it does not tell me how many parts there are. There's a lot of parts. And I'm not going to count through them all, but I would say it's like 50 parts. But I did calculate it up the other night. It was like 225,000 words, and I think I'm going to hit like 245, maybe 250. Because, like, the chapter that introduces the president of this fictional United States needs to be extended. It does. It's very basic. And I mean, it doesn't need to be huge. We don't need to learn all about him, but we need to get a sort of small idea of the character. I mean, it's just over 1,000 words, and it's mostly just, a briefing on a situation that had happened. But yeah, it's a lot of. Maybe will tell me under story details. It does not tell me. But I love how you can have ratings and such on it. Like mine, it's filtered for mature audiences because there's sex, there's violence. Anyways, back when I actually was going to college, one of my favorite classes I ever did, and I did it because I was a writer, not because it was necessary towards anything at all that I was going for. I was going for a liberal arts transfer degree. I can't remember what my secondary was, but that was my focus. But I took a creative writing class, and we had to write a short story for the final project. What I ended up writing, I don't remember how many words it was originally, but it was like 15 pages, or it was 14 pages. So it was 13 full pages and like a half a page. And, we had to turn it in a couple of times to the teacher, have peers review it in the class. But the first time I turned it in to the teacher, he said, if you can cut some things down, this story would be better. Or no, he didn't say. He said, try and cut down some of the excess in the story, because it is a long short story. And so I cut it down to like 11 pages or something. Somebody in class, looked at it, and I read it, and they put in their thoughts and ideas, and I kind of implemented it a little bit, obviously, because that's what peer reviews are for. But they weren't really a writer, and so they didn't, or a reader much, so they didn't really have much. They just said it was a pretty good short story, blah, 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 But I implemented the little things that they were, like, confused about, and cleared it up, and then I submitted it again to the teacher, and he's never had a book, but he's done like short stories and poetry in national magazines and such. But his name was Brett something. I don't remember his name was. That time when I got it back, he said, if you could cut this down to under 10 pages, you'd have a very solid short story here. And so I was like, okay. And I got it down to like 9 3/4 page. And I was like, and I ended up getting 100% on the short story, which honestly, there's no reason I passed that class, because I've told you guys before, or if that video's gone up yet or not, I don't know. I am shit at short story, or not short stories, but poetry. And literally half the class was not necessarily writing like short stories, but like writing short stories off of a starter or off of an idea. Like some of them was like a paragraph, the first paragraph, and then you build off that first paragraph, or it was centered around an idea. But the final was whatever the hell you wanted for a short story. The other half of the class was poetry. I'm terrible at poetry. I turned in like 4 out of 12 poems. So technically I should have failed the class, because I did like 70% of the work in there. However, I did get 100% on the short story. The short story that I had in class, or the short story I have saved on Wattpad, because I genuinely enjoyed this short story. I kept it. I converted it over to Novular, which I used to use. And they don't have a phone app, which is really all I have anymore. Like I said, this is my girlfriend's laptop. So I use this as little as possible. Like I use it for these videos, and that's about it. I'll probably use it for uploading the videos and everything, but until I get mine fixed. But Wattpad has an app, so you can use it on your phone. So that's how I write anymore. I also would not mind reading some of Zoe, like picking chapters out here and there, if you guys would be interested in that. Mostly because whenever I actually do release it, you got to have some vague idea of, hey, if you like it, but also, there'll be like things like where I send out chapters to email and, to people's emails and such, just because that's a thing, and it's a very good thing. I never personally got involved in that with any other authors. Like, I was just like, I'd read the description, I go, that sounds good, I'll buy it. There's not been very many books I've disliked. However, I have the entire series, and this is where it bites you in the ass, I have the entire series for The Long Earth. One of them, I think both of them, but Terry Pratchett is a legend in science fiction writing. But I read like 30 to 50 pages of that first novel, and I was like, this sucks. So I put it down. I am going to still try to read it. I am. But I was like, this is very basic writing. What the hell? And, you don't expect that with science fiction, because typically it's very in-depth, very... there's all these big words getting thrown around. This is like written for a 6-year-old. Not quite, but like a 6th grader. And it kind of put me off, and the story just wasn't pulling together in any exciting way for me. But anyways, we're already 20 minutes into the episode, and we got 4,000 words to read here. So if you don't want to, you can cut the video now. I will give you this. I'll probably rate this a 4.25 up it, because it's better than I remember. This one I would honestly buy a 6-pack of, even though it only comes in bottles. Deschutes, unlike Zipline, does do cans. They need to do this in cans. They need to do everything. Everything should be in cans. Just everything in cans. Anyways, even big beers, I find are better in can. But anyway, story time. All right. The name of the story is Jesse Stone. He is basically a serial killer. I say basically. He's got other issues, but the main function of the story is he's a serial killer, and he gears towards women. But anyways, Jesse Stone sits at a small bar down the street from his home. Despite being quite a successful lawyer, this is not a good neighborhood for him to be living in, but he enjoys it. Despite his past, he has grown, which we'll get into his past, but it can happen. But anyways, the neighborhood is noisy at night, though it is a guarded noise, as nobody ever really bothers anyone else. He mainly keeps to himself anyways. He mainly keeps to himself. He takes another drink from his beer. He is enjoying the spices and the beautiful dark flavors of this Sam Adams winter lager, which for us isn't really much. I love the beer. I like the beer a lot. But he's not really that big into craft, and for us that would show it to an extent. You're going to see that throughout here. But craft is what he drinks, but he's just on the edge. And you'll see it throughout the story. But for anybody who's not really into it, that's a pretty good description of that beer. I mean, for us, it'd say, yeah, they're, spice, but it's light. But anyways, this time, though, unlike last night, he must watch how much he drinks. He drank too many beers last night. Now we go into a flashback. Jesse watches, and you're going to wonder why he's got to be careful and not drink how much he did the night before. Jesse watches the school bully goes into the bathroom alone. The bully does not want his friends in there at the same time. Jesse is completely conscious of what he is about to do. He pulls the wrench out of his pocket, and he took off the janitor before the third class period and walks into the bathroom, wrench held firmly in his right hand. Every fiber of his being salivating for what he is about to do. His whole body is screaming for him to liberate himself from this infectious disease. What the hell are you doing in here, the hell are you doing here, Pebble? Do I have to kick your ass again? Maybe that will teach you a lesson. Jesse says nothing. He just stands there with his long, unkempt hair hanging in his face. If you've seen Halloween. Wrench clenched tightly in his hand. The bully's voice sounds again. This time, though, with a noticeable panic, and Jesse could care less. What is that for? Jesse raises the wrench behind his head. The bully screams, just as Jesse hits him over the head as hard as he can. The bully crumbles to the ground. Without a thought, Jesse stands over him, emotionless and expressionless. Let's read that again. Jesse stands over him, emotionless, expressionless, and uncaring, as a pool of blood begins to form on the floor. Jesse kneels down on one knee with the wrench held high. The bully is incapacitated and has no idea what has and is going to befall him. Jesse begins to unload on the bully as blood begins to cover both of them. Jesse, he snaps out of it. What? He says quickly, seeing a woman sitting next to him. Last night you said to meet you back here at 9. Remember? This girl's name is Lily. They had met last night and Jesse selected her then, but was too inebriated to do anything last night. Plus she had to work in the morning, so having her come over was not going to work. Bartender, winter lager for the beautiful girl in the dress. He tells the bartender wearing another dress, eh? Sorry, why not? Or sure, why not? I like to look good when I go out, so what is the taste of this winter lager? Well, it has winter spices in it that you can pick out. It is very rich and dark beer flavor. Again, most people that were going to be reading this were either 18, 19, or 20. I don't know if anybody else in the class even knew Salmon's Winter Lager was a thing. But anyways. And not that, Jesse's character kind of portrays that. But you haven't had a dark beer before. So all I can really tell you is that since it is a darker beer, the flavor will be very strong. Though not to the point where you can't drink it. Well, I need something strong to help me enjoy some part of this day. American dark beers don't usually get too strong despite that being a trademark of dark beers. I merely said the flavor is strong. Wrong, but again, if you're not big into craft beer, you don't know that. Like, Bourbon County Stout was very much a thing at this time. And there are a lot of them. Like this would be too much for him. But anyways, I'm griping about my own story. And actually, do beers get that... Typically, they don't get that heavy in any other country. Typically, if you're looking at a 10% beer, it's probably American. It could be Belgium. 9 times out of 10, it's not Germany, Ireland, or England, or anything else, really. But anyways, again, probably wouldn't know that. And obviously, Jesse is wrong and doesn't know that. The bartender sets the beer on the counter in front of her. She takes a few breaths to get loosened up before taking a drink. He completely detests this. He smiles and says, "You're not running a marathon." She looks at him. "No, but I don't know. I don't think I'm going to like it." "I bet you will," he coaxes her on. She lifts the top of the beer to her mouth and tips just a slight bit of the liquid into her mouth. No, you must let more in if you're going to pick out the flavors. She tips about a shot's worth of liquid into her mouth. That's it. Swirl it around your mouth for a few seconds to steady the flavor. She does this, and her face lights up. He smiles and says, "So you like it?" "Yes, but not as much as mixed drinks, though I won't be afraid to drink a beer." "Well, when you're finished with that..." I promise I'm just itching. Well, when you're finished with that, did you want to come back to my place and try a variety of different beers? He knows she is not going to say yes just yet, but he knows he'll get her there. I don't know. I like the atmosphere here. I don't bite. Plus, the atmosphere at my place is pretty cool. At least I think. Maybe I can get your opinion? He begins to think that this might be the ticket. Maybe. Come on, the beer is free, and you never turn down free beer. Unless it is cheap beer, and in that case it is terribly erroneous. He can tell that he is very close in swaying her into making this decision. Don't worry about him. He's a great guy. He comes in here quite a bit. Jesse looks up at the bartender, who winks at him. Jesse gives him a smile, even though he detests this idea of helping someone get laid. Though the bartender has no idea that is not his objective with this girl. Jesse actually almost dislikes this bartender. As much as he dislikes this girl, or he would if he didn't help Jesse get this girl to come back to his place. Alright, it sounds like fun. He proceeds to tell her that the neighborhood is really nice before they leave. He has quite a few locks on the doors and bars on the windows of his home, which can be contributed to the neighborhood. So if the neighborhood is safe, why do you need bars on the windows and locks on the doors? I said it was nice, not safe. Though it is safe for the individual, just not your belongings. He locks the door behind him. Finally, he can let himself out. So where is that beer? Here. Come on, it's in the kitchen, he says. This way. He leads her to the kitchen. He gets a Sierra Nevada porter out of his fridge and hands it to her. And I love those people who think just because they'll drink, like, dark beers from, like, Sam Adams, Sierra Nevada, or New Belgium, or any of the big ones, they think they're big into dark beer and all that. If you're drinking their basic ones, you're not really, but anyways. She begins to try and open it. He's enjoying watching her struggle like she should be. I can't get it open. I'll set it on the table. It takes a bottle opener to do it. Here, I'll get it. He opens a drawer and looks back at her. She has her back to him. Perfect. He picks up his kitchen roller and turns around. He walks up behind her and lifts the roller over his head. She begins to talk, but he hits her hard on the back of the head and does not catch what she wanted to say. She drops to the floor unconscious. Jesse heads up into his bedroom and reaches up in his closet to retrieve a couple of his balisong knives. I'm probably saying that word wrong. Anybody who's into knives can tell me. Balisong knives, which are illegal in most states. One of the knives possesses a short, wide, and curved blade. The other blade is long and thin. Jason then goes back downstairs. He sits next to her on the couch to wait for her to wake up. And now we got another flashback. All Jesse can see now is a V shape where the middle of Jason's head used to be. Jason is the bully's name. Jesse just kneels over the bully, his arm at his side, breathing heavily. He hears the cling of the wrench hitting the ground next to him. He has no care, nor does he feel any emotion towards this heinous act that he carried out, though he knows full well what he did. Jesse stands up violently. What is with these visions? It's almost like when someone is feeling deep regret about something, though Jesse does not feel regret. He has never felt it. So maybe he is? No, he doubts that. He looks down at this pathetic girl who is tied up. She is starting to stir. Did you have a nice nap? What are you doing to me? Right now, nothing at all. I am merely going to tell you about myself. I'm a very successful lawyer. I live in this neighborhood for one reason. Jesse pauses only for a moment. Why? You will find that reason out very soon. I want to tell you more about my own personal history. When I was a young boy, about 3 years old, I enjoyed torturing and killing small animals. So you're a serial killer? No. Please don't interrupt me again. Though your society would say that I am a psychopath, I disagree, however. Now, where was I? Ah, yes. I was telling you about my childhood. My father had left my mother when I was very young, and she began to drink a lot. That line, a lot, was kind of taken from The Dark Knight, Joker. Uh, when she would drink, she liked to hit me. When I turned 6 and began elementary school, I became the target for a bully by the name of Jason. I would only allow my mother to abuse me, so I killed him. I think it was that day that I realized how weak and insignificant an individual's life is. More importantly, how pathetic the washed masses are. Alright, and then we're going to have a cut to a different scene. 911. How may I help you? Yes, my sister is not at home, and I can't reach her on her cell phone. I think something might have happened to her. How long has it been since she has been seen? Well, I haven't seen or talked to her since Wednesday. Her job, however, said she came in Friday. What time did she leave work? I don't know, she gets off at 4. We can't do anything until it has been a full 24 hours since she was last seen. But this is not like my sister. She always calls me every other day, and I didn't hear from her last night. Well, if you gave us her name, that would help. Lily Treadwater. Okay, is she still... if she is still gone at 4, call again. But I am sure you will get a call from her today. My dear Lily, please try to stay awake. I must move your car, but I can't leave you here where you could have time to escape, so I have decided that you will stay in my basement in the meantime. He can smell her fear, and it sickens him. The petty emotion has never had any control over him. Come to think of it, he doesn't seem to remember ever experiencing fear himself. Okay, do you remember that day 4 years ago, when you took that wrench to that boy's head repeatedly? We've done another scene switch, and it's psychiatrist. Like I said, this took some inspiration from Halloween. Rob Zombies, which I think is a way better version of Halloween. Sorry, but I think so. Yes. Do you know what was going through your mind at the time? Then something happened that the psychiatric did not expect. Jesse's demeanor changed. If this was like a full story, which I think it could be, you would get more of where Jesse was more reserved and not really talkative. But anyways, I don't know. I was scared for my life. The bullying thing was new to me. But your mother abused you. How could it be new? I had not experienced it from someone else. I feared for my life. I did not know I was going to kill him. The psychiatric is thrilled. After 4 years, he was getting Jesse to talk about that day and what he felt. I never meant to hurt anyone. Why didn't you tell me this before? I was scared. I didn't want you to think of me as a coward. But you hardly knew me at first. I know, but I still didn't want you to think of me as a coward. The psychiatrist smiles at Jesse and says, I don't think of you as a coward. Not at all, Jesse. I think we're about done for today. I'm going to talk to the board and see if we can't get you out of here. How does that sound? Okay, that sounds great. Jesse looks over at Lily, who is still oozing with fear, and throws some duct tape over her mouth. You'll love it in the cellar, Lily. It's cold and damp down there. He grabs a handful of her hair and drags her to the basement. Jesse grabs her keys off of the end table and locks the front door. He hears a beeping sound and realizes it's her cell phone. She had left it in her car. He picks it up and looks at it. 5 missed calls. Stacy Treadwater. This must be her sister. No matter to him, though. Mr. Jones. In the 4 years that I have been talking to Jesse, he has shown no signs of being a psychopath. In fact, he has sounded and behaved more like a scared boy. Isn't it a known fact that psychopaths can mimic human emotions? Yes, but that is why I am proposing that he be let out, but under 24-hour watch. Of course, I will have to continue meeting with him. Very well. If you say he is normal, then we will grant your request. Jesse opens the front door and quickly closes it. Lily, are you awake? See, I had where he dropped the car off, but to be fair, does that do anything for the story? To be fair. Writing like Zoe, yes, I'd have that in there because for something like, science fiction, you kind of want as much detail as possible, but short story, you gotta just kind of get to the juicy bits. He moves over to the basement door. Good, she was not able to get out of the basement. He unlocks the door and descends into the basement. Jesse looks around once he gets to the bottom of the stairs. He finds her sitting on the couch. There you are. He walks over to her and takes the tape off of her mouth. If you want money, I can pay. No, money is inconsequential to me. Well, as you all know, Jesse had not been showing any signs of being a psychopath, but they are also known for mimicking human emotions without actually feeling them. A year ago, I pushed for Jesse to be released from the psychiatric hospital and be under 24-hour watch. Over this past year, I figured that within the first few weeks, he would slip up if he was indeed a psychopath. But over the past 12 months, he has done nothing different than a normal 11-year-old boy, even when he thought he was not under any supervision. Jesse begins to smile on the inside. After all these years, he would free again after doing nothing at all wrong. So what are you saying, Doctor? I'm saying the boy is not a psychopath, and should we return to a life with privacy for the first time in half a decade. Decades, 10 years, oh yeah. I was like, did I fuck that? I was thinking this decade was 25 years. That's not a decade. Jesse could not agree more. He is not a psychopath. He did nothing at all. He did nothing to anyone that they did not deserve. 911, may I help you? I called this morning about my sister missing. Okay, what is her name? Lily Treadwater. Okay, we will begin a search for her. Where are you going to look? Well, we first need to find out if she told anybody at her job she was going out anywhere. It was Friday. Most people do go out that night. Okay, please find her. How may I help you, officer? The bartender asks. Have you seen this girl? He holds up a picture of Lily Treadwater. The bartender only has to look at it for a second. Yes, she was in here the past 2 nights. Again, I had more there of their search, but it kind of has to go quick. Was she with anyone? She met a man. What was his name? Jesse. Last name? I never caught it. He comes in here often and never drives. He said he lives near here, like up the street or something. Man, I feel so bad. Why? I went to bat for that guy so many times when a girl would come in here. The officer takes out his radio. I have a lead. The suspect name is Jesse. No last name. He lives close to Stephen's bar. Jesse feels his proclivities to torture and hurt people pass through him as he stands over a girl who he has tied up and duct taped her mouth shut. She is crying, fearing the worst out of the situation as she should be. Jesse feels absolutely nothing, just as always. He kneels down over her and displays the knife in front of her purely to get her to squirm. Jesse cuts the duct tape over her mouth to get the full ambiance of the scene. Obviously, yes, he does feel something. It's more frightening and terrifying if you say it that way, and what you typically get out of that is, okay, he has no remorse or anything, but anyway. He switches his grip on the knife to a stabbing one. Jesse lifts it above his head and drives it into her heart. She begins to scream before it is muffled. As she throws up blood, she continues to cry, knowing that the worst has happened. Have you found we are... Wow. That is not how you spell that. Let me... Have you found where he lives yet? The sergeant asked one of his officers over the phone. No, the neighborhood is not talking. Check the database for all Jessies that live in that area. There cannot be a lot of males with that name in that neighborhood, he tells him. I got one hit, 90th and Nickel Street, 82594. Okay, the sergeant gets on the radio. All units to 90th and Nickel, 82594 is the address. He looks at the driving officer. We're on the way, sir. Sergeant, there is one more thing. The officer's voice issues from his phone. Well, out with it, officer. It says here that the suspect spent 5 years in a psychiatric ward after brutally beating a kid's head in 22 years ago. God damn. So he's a psychopath. Jesse stands up. Lily cowers in the corner of the couch. He lifts his shirt off of his hips and reaches into his knife holster. Lily sees this, and he can once again feel the fear oozing off of her. He pulls out the knife that is short and curvy from the holster. She gets a look at it as he intended. Please don't hurt me. He raises the knife. Fuck, she screams. Just fucking let me go. She begins to plead for her life. He takes a step towards her and puts the knife to her throat. He feels absolutely nothing right now. There is no hate in him. There is no uncaring or anything. Just nothing. Jesse Stone, are you in there? A voice comes over a megaphone. How could he be so naive? Of course somebody would file a missing persons report. He looks down at the girl, who is noticeably less scared. Does she think she's getting out of this alive? Then Jesse hears a ringing sound. The phone. Hello? Is this Jesse Stone? Shit, how can you get out of this? Is Lily Treadwater with you? She is right here. Can you let her go? I'm sorry, but I just can't acquiesce that plea, officer. I don't think she will be alive for long. Please don't do anything irrational, Jesse. Irrational? Who the hell does he think I am? Irrational? No, she has merely done the wrongs, and I am what will befall her. He is once again disconnected. There's the megaphone again. Jesse, don't do it. Please let her go. It will be better for you if you let her go now. Let her go? Better for me? No, I can't let her go because of her own proclivities. She deserves it. This feeling that he has only comes around when he is ready to kill. I remember one of the critiques I got for this, actually the biggest critique I got was all the big words. But all the big words are only being used in connection with Jesse's thoughts or his words. And Jesse is quite an intelligent individual, so I didn't really understand that critique. Anyways, and being a very highly intelligent individual, he's going to use larger words. She deserves it. This feeling that he has only comes around when he is ready to kill. He is used to it by now, after all the people he has killed. He looks at her expressionless. She is back to thinking that she won't get out of this alive. He raises the knife again and stabs her in the stomach. This action drives the breath out of her, and she begins to cry as she tries to catch her breath. Jesse tears the knife from her stomach over her liver. Blood squirts everywhere, and all Jesse sees is her wince from the pain and tears running down her face as he lifts the knife out of her circumspectly, about not getting too deep with the penetration of the knife. He drives the knife from near her intestines and drives the blade up to the open wound. Jesse pulls the blade out of her and stands up. He views his work as she looks up at him, still crying, not being able to scream. Officer, you can't go in there. The sergeant screams at one of his officers. Man runs up onto the porch, shooting out the window. He proceeds to pull the bars off of the window and enters the home. Jesse can hear someone behind him, but does not care. The officer shoots Jesse in the side, and Jesse drops to the ground. The officer can see that Lily has been eviscerated. Alex, she says very weakly, coughing up blood. He puts a hand on her shoulder. Jesse begins to move and pulls out his other knife so he can kill this guy that has interrupted his ritual and finish her. He begins to get up. The officer sees this and shoots him in the head. This time Jesse won't be getting up. He begins to cry. Yes, little sis, it's me. He begins to cry. Warren kisses her as she was about to speak again. Don't talk anymore. You'll be fine, he tells her as calmly as he can. We need some fucking towels and an ambulance, he screams at the officers outside. He looks back at his sister as he drops the gun and grabs a pillow from the couch and presses it against her wound. Lily, can you hear me? He sees that the tears are continuing. Her head moves to the right, which is her way of telling him without talking. Officer Treadwater, there is an ambulance on the way. It should be here in a few minutes. You hear that, sis? The ambulance will be here in a few minutes, and you'll be safe. She tries to speak, but no words issue from her mouth. I told you not to speak. Save your energy for surviving. They rush a gurney over to her. Sir, you are going to have to step back. I want to go with my sister. Officer Treadwater, shouldn't you call Stacy and your mother? One of the officers asks him. I will, but I'm going with my sister. He runs out of the front door and sees that they have just loaded Lily into the ambulance. Wait, he moves towards the ambulance. Officer, I can't let you in there. We have to begin to stabilize her. He stops and watches them clear the scene. He runs his hand down his face with a bit of force. Alex notices that there is blood smeared on his hand from his face. Alex, what the fuck were you thinking? You had no idea if he had a gun. He looks at his sergeant and says, Sir, fuck you. That man had my sister. He tried to gut her. If we would have waited, he would have finished her. Come on, Alex, his friend and partner tells him. I'll give you a ride to the hospital. Alex doesn't say a word. He just complies with his friend and follows him to the squad car. 3 hours later, the door to the waiting room opens and Anyway. 3 hours later, the door to the waiting room opens and the surgeon walks in. Alex can see that the front of him is covered in blood, and he thinks the worst. He begins to cry and almost loses his balance as the surgeon gets ready to speak. The surgeon looks at the family. Please sit down. Well, as it turns out, the knife that had been used only barely scraped her organs. She would have bled out before you were even able to get to her if the blade would have opened them. In other words, as of right now, it looks extremely likely that she will survive. Her will to survive must be strong. Said it looked like it. They didn't say that she definitely was going to survive. But anyway, that's the short story Jesse Stone. If you're still here, that's incredible. But I have a 3-parter that I really like. I got other ones that I don't know if I'll ever read, short story-wise. But like I said, I would kind of like to read some of Zoe and some of Cruel World, which is the other one. It's about a girl with a fucked up life. Like I've said in other videos, I have a 4-part series called Argos that takes place at different points in this crew's mission to another planet. Honestly, I think like the only pages that'll take place on Earth is like the first 50 or 100 pages. But I expect each of those books will probably end up being around 120 to 170,000 words. I think the last one will probably be around 170, otherwise they'll typically be between like 120 and 150. But my Zoe series might be the only thing that ever sees the light of day. I've got like 12 books planned already in that. This is not all my stories. There is show more. Let It Die is something that I am extremely excited for. But it's going to be fairly long for a 9 science fiction book. What I love most about my Zoe series, though, is it's very weird in how the books are set up. Like, the first 3 are their own trilogy. I'm not going to give away names of trilogies because it'll kind of give away plot to an extent. Then there's a one-off book for the fourth one. Then 5, 6, and 7 are Universal War is the name of those. Oh no, that's not Universal War. That would be Multiverse then. Excuse me. That's 8, 9, and 10. 5, 6, and 7. I don't. Oh, I know what 5, 6, and 7 are. They're called the Adipone Trilogy. But then it's the Multiverse Trilogy, and then the Universal War Trilogy. But, so the series is like 13 books so far. I really want to do one about dinosaurs, but I don't know if that'll ever get out of the planning stages, to be honest with you. There's also Cruel World. Most of this is Zoe. 4 of them are Argos. There's one called Collapsing Universe that I really would like to do, but that's going to be one of those books where technically you should split it up into multiple books, but I kind of like the idea of it being this huge-ass anthology. And it's going to be like 800,000 words. But, like, what I have planned so far is billions of years into the future, super evolved and advanced humans discover the universe has been deflating and heading towards a full collapse. We knew a bit that the universe had inflated and stretched so much that galaxies had been torn apart millions of years earlier. We have evolved to live in space, along with 2 other species. We will get along with, one we get along with, the other we have been at war with and don't get along with. Now that the universe is heading for collapse, we must try to find a way to we must try and find a way to exit stage left and get to another universe. Will the second Dark Age and the first be the reason we're never able to continue as a species and save ourselves? Because the Dark Ages was 700 years of technology we never got to get, and in this, there's going to be the backstory of the second Dark Age. Literally everything will need to be explained. This is thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years in the future. Not only is Earth a thing of the past destroyed, but so is virtually all planets. As the story goes, the universe has expanded too much that it tore apart galaxies, ripping planets away from their star, leaving them to die out in space. The human race has evolved so much over the billions of years they would not be recognizable today. They have taken to living within spaceships, as that has become the only way to survive. The universe is no longer expanding, it has been collapsing for some time now. This ends the war. Or does it? The 3 races come together to find a way to survive the dying universe. What can you do, though? Where can you go? There is only one place to go, another universe. But how? We know enough to be able to detect these other universes, but have not been able to find a way to get there. The 3 races come together to try and find a way out. The first Dark Ages, a period of time that lasted 800 years. Yeah, 800, not 7. From the 6th century to the 14th century, religion ruled the world and intelligence and science were shunned. The second Dark Ages occurred between the 21st century and the 27th century, over 1600 years of advancement lost forever to time. The second Dark Age saw the deaths of anyone related to science or intelligence. Over 1600 years of advancements lost forever to time. The second Dark Ages saw the deaths of anyone related to science or intelligence. Though in the billions of years following, humans never saw another. Religion became a thing of the past. Something that could have been very useful in escaping the universe might have been lost forever. In those 2 incidents that might doom humans to extinction. And I have here, it's going to be like 400,000 to 800,000 words, probably 600,000, meet in the middle, on the cusp of being able to crack the code and exit the universe. But is there enough time left? Will the first and second Dark Ages, the shunning of science, be the reasons we were never able to advance fast enough to prevent the end of humanity? Will the universe implode and claim humanity with it? I feel like that's a good tagline. I mean, condensed down, I feel like that'll be a good tagline. If that ever sees the light of day. But anyways, we got an hour-long video here. So, until next time, Prost.